Hey everybody, this is Seth Davis for Campus Insiders. It's top 25 time. I put out my ballot every Sunday night on Twitter. I feed the trolls and get your responses. Here's what I submitted to the Associated Press this week. Obviously, Kentucky and Virginia, your two undefeated teams at the top. I dropped Duke down to 5 after the week they had last week, and I moved Arizona up to 9 because of their big win over Utah. I really like this VCU Rams team, by the way. They're still undefeated in the Atlantic 10. And then at the bottom of the top 25, you see two teams from the Big East in Providence and Georgetown, as well as Indiana hanging tough at number 22. Now, what do the trolls have to say about this? Chase Johnson, my man, writes in from under his bridge. Duke gets embarrassed at home and beats an overrated U of L team. Drops one spot. Makes sense. Well, Chase, I'm the guy with the ballot, and it makes perfect sense to me because you have to take into account that Duke played Louisville on the road and absolutely embarrassed them with a new zone defense that they hadn't played before. So you have to account for the eye test, and you might think that U of L is overrated, but everybody else had them as a top 10, even in some quarters, as a top 5 team. It was a highly impressive performance, and keep in mind the other teams that Duke is going up against, like Gonzaga, which only has that one loss at Arizona, but plays in a much weaker league than the ACC. So that's why Duke is where they are. Ruben Romero tweets in from under his bridge. Wow, ND ahead of Arizona. Do you even watch college basketball? Why not have Mercer number 1 after that puke-ass whooping last year? Keep in mind, Ruben, that this is a reaction to ranking Arizona one spot behind Notre Dame. One spot. So they're essentially the same team. Notre Dame is a very impressive offensive team. They beat Miami at home over the weekend, which is something that Duke was unable to do. And then Notre Dame also played Virginia very tough. They only have 2 losses on the year. Arizona has a couple of bad losses if you look at their entire body of work. They lost at UNLV. They lost at Oregon State. Neither of those teams are going to the NCAA tournament. So the idea that Arizona absolutely positively has to be ahead of Notre Dame is kind of ridiculous, but trolls are ridiculous by nature. I appreciate your thoughts. And then finally, after my top 25, I list some of the teams that I considered for voting my almost famous teams. Baylor was not on the list that I tweeted out on Sunday night, which brought this response from the Bears. Not even Baylor in this. LOL, go home, you're drunk. Well, at the time, technically, I was home on Twitter. I wasn't drunk yet. But I think V Bears makes a good point. Baylor should have been included in my list of almost famous teams. They did have a nice win at home by 1 point over Iowa State. A little bit of controversy there at the end with Kenny Cherry's game-winning basket, but a win is a win. Iowa State is very good. I didn't like the fact that Baylor blew a 14-point lead at Kansas State, but losing a conference game on the road is never any shame in that. And if you look at Baylor's schedule coming up, they do get Oklahoma, Texas, and TCU in Waco in the next week and a half. So if Baylor wants to get famous, beating one of those teams is a good way to do it. So we'll see you next Sunday, trolls. Have fun under your bridges.